Forge, Chapter 50. Bellingham and General Lee and the congressman rode off to headquarters that morning, led by Timothy Hubbard. I was left behind to clean the barn. Shoveling horse manure smelled worse than waiting on the gentleman, to be sure, but it was worth being free of Bellingham's sly gaze and the endless recounting of numbers of tent poles, shot pouches, and water buckets that the army required. I hung my coat from a peg, rolled up my sleeves, and surveyed the barn. Benny Edwards had told us of the story about a fellow named Hercules who moved an entire river to clean out this stable that had 100 years of muck in it. I did not know how to move a river, so I set the task with a wheelbarrow and started in wheelbarrow and a large shovel. I shoveled horse manure and pushed the barrow to the dung heap and returned for more over and over again. My progress was observed by a pair of swallows busy building a nest from bits of straw and long strands of horsehair. I tried to imitate their whistle but failed. Instead, I sang quietly, for my voice was known to make dogs howl. By midday, I felt like more myself than I had in months. Mrs. Cook teased me about the smell when I came in for dinner, but she gave me 3 helpings of dumplings and gravy. By dusk, I was too tired to give any thought to Isabel or our plight. My hands were so sore I could barely move my fingers, and my back was so stiff I walked like an old man as I returned the barrow to the shed. But the job was done. Each stall was laid with fresh straw, and the center of the barn was swept clean. Sure hope the horses appreciate this, I said, nesting into the shallows. They didn't reply. I hung up the broom and headed for the well. I was halfway there when I noticed Isabel talking to someone standing next to the horse in the shadows just beyond the east wall of Moore Hall, away from the open windows and curious cooks. Gideon was back. I walked faster. The pains in my arms and back had been forgotten. He was standing much too close to her. "What are you doing?" I asked as I approached them. Isabel stepped away from Gideon, startled. I was just the import of the scene hit me. Gideon was dressed like a country boy, not a congressman's manservant. The horse's saddle was poorly made. The harness was an old rope, not leather. Canvas saddlebags hung heavily behind the saddle. "He's running." "Begone," I said. Gideon shifted nervously from foot to foot. "I've come to speak with Isabel, not you." Isabel had gathered the edge of her apron in her hand and was worrying it with her thumb. Her eyes darted this way and that, her entire form tensed as a cat preparing to pounce. "Go inside, country," I said. What? Or would you enslave her too?" Gideon said. "Stay if you wish, Isabel." "Leave her alone, you lying frog." "She's made her decision," Gideon said. "What decision?" "I'm leaving tonight," Isabel whispered. The barn swallows swooped past, not paying any mind to the 3 of us huddled together. "Tonight?" My voice cracked. "Why tonight?" "A fortuitous circumstance arose," Gideon said. "My master sent me here from York with letters for the general staff and a note to Congressman Morris stating that I had recovered and I was again to serve at Moore Hall. I burned it. I've been preparing for months, waiting for the right moment. It's here." "Come with us," Isabel said to me. "He can't. It'll ruin everything," Gideon said. Isabel frowned. "I don't trust him," I said. "She can, and she should trust me. I have friends who will keep us safe. I know a blacksmith who will remove that collar." I was sorely tempted to punch him in the nose, but if I did, Isabel could be gone forever. I needed to attack his flank. "She said you've agreed to find Ruth. Are you going to head for Charleston along the coast or over the mountains?" Gideon hesitated. "Neither. We cannot head there right away." "Because you'd have no intention of going there, ever." I tapped the side of my head, with my finger. "Think, Isabel. He's not going to take you to Charleston any more than I would. He's only lying about it, and I'm telling the truth. Do you really think the folks in Carolina are going to let you walk in and grab Ruth? If she's alive, if she's there, then allowed to steal her away from them?" Isabel lifted her chair. "Gideon knows people who will help us. Balderdash, he knows how to twist your mind." "You're a jealous boy," Gideon said. "Not jealous," I said. "Afraid. You'll be the death of her." Isabel put her hand on my elbow. The cool touch of her fingers rooted me to the ground. I was certain that I would never be able to leave the spot of the ground on the east side of Moore Hall. Even if my feet moved, my heart would forever be chained to that place, to that moment, because I looked her in the eyes and I knew that she was leaving with him. She dropped her hand. Enough talk. Gideon put his hat on, a large black felt farmer's hat that made it hard to see his face. The moon will set around midnight, he says to Isabel. Leave when it sits just above the treetops.